false books. In other sections of this building there were rooms where art students could learn. Great was the joy of these students, finally free from earthly constraints and physical limitations. Here, learning is easy, and for those who wish to learn, the acquisition and application of knowledge are equally easy. There are no struggles for students who must face the earthly difficulties of learning, and progress is consequently easy and rapid. The students' happiness was shared and felt by everyone around them. There is no longer any obstacle to their improvement when all earthly limitations and the petty annoyances of worldly existence are cast aside forever. The volumes filling the shelves of this section were enlightening. Every word contained in these books corresponded to the absolute truth. Misrepresentations were impossible, for only the truth can enter these realms, and the reader was able to learn, for the first time, the truth about the history of his nation. I returned to this library several times and spent a great deal of time with these books, delving deeper into history. I was very surprised when I began reading, as all the historical acts and events were presented to me exactly as they had actually occurred. But something else left me astounded. Alongside every event narrated by historians, statesmen, and kings, the true motivations behind that event were described in full and complete truth. Many of these motivations were noble, but in most cases they were petty, distorted, and misguided. In these annals, written in indelible ink, were the true stories of thousands upon thousands of living beings who, during their earthly journey, had been active participants in the affairs of their nation. Some had been victims of the pettiness and greed of others. Others were the cause and origin of that pettiness and greed. No one was spared, kings or commoners, clergy or nobles, no one was forgotten. The truth was there for all to see, nothing was hidden. The writers were witnesses to history as it had actually unfolded, without commentary or embellishment. And I was deeply grateful that this truth had been kept hidden from us until now. Only now are our minds prepared for revelations of this kind. So far I have mentioned only political history, but I also studied the history of the Church, and what was revealed to me in this area was no better than what pertained to the political sphere. In fact, it was even worse, considering that many diabolical acts were committed by men who professed to serve God, yet in God's name served only themselves. I would never have expected such richness and depth in the narrative. I noticed that on countless occasions the motivations presented in earthly history books were far removed from reality. Although these books bore witness to many terrible events in earthly world history, they also described great and noble deeds. They were not written for the purpose of passing judgment, but for the pure pleasure of reading and learning the truth. Here, the need for knowledge is much greater than on earth, since there is no longer any need to devote our minds to the urgent needs and demands of incarnate life, such as work-related demands. I passed through many other rooms where volumes on every imaginable subject were available to all who wished to study them. And perhaps one of the most important topics was what some enlightened spirits have called psychic science, for it is indeed a science. I was astounded by the amount of literature on the subject. On the shelves were books that denied the existence of a spiritual world and denied the reality of returning to the spiritual state. Many of these authors now had the opportunity to view their own works with very different feelings. They had become living witnesses to the falsity of the content of their books. We were very impressed by the beauty of the book covers, the material on which they were written, and the style of the writing. I was told that the reproduction of books in the spirit world did not follow the same process as painting. I had seen for myself how the truth had been suppressed in earthly volumes, both intentionally and out of ignorance of the actual facts.